Welcome into the Alabama Football Report. I am Tom down here with our Overreaction Sunday from Alabama's kind of ugly win over Arkansas. The final score 24-21. I had been talking to producer Chris mid-game and said this game's out of hand, and then Alabama's offense forgot how to play football down the stretch until they did do a good job of icing the game out with a, as I told you, kind of hilarious. It was like a 10-play, 29-yard drive that took up 5 minutes of the game or close to it. So not impressive, but it is a win as Alabama now gets looking forward to the third Sunday in October against Tennessee. If you want us to be live for that game, doing one of our awesome watch parties, then share this video. Tweet it, Facebook it, I guess X it, Instagram, text to a buddy, whatever. Share today's video if you want us to be live for that game next Saturday. Into the overreactions. Number one, you can't beat teams. And this is actually from Nick Saban, as we'll get into. This year, Alabama is 4-3 against the spread. That is not great. Good teams win. Great teams cover. Alabama's only covered a few times this year. This used to be a team that was a wagon when it came to covering spreads, or they just have not been that team this year. And it did look like an easy cover line. Your score was like 40-9 or something like that. Producer Chris's. It looked like they were going to get there. And the second half offense completely fell apart. They had nothing going. They could not move the football consistently. Jalen Milroe struggled in the second half. The entire offense was not good enough. Here's what Nick Saban said after the game. It's great to win. It's great to be where we are in the SEC relative to how we've progressed. But there is a difference between beating the other team and winning the game. Hopefully, we can learn how to beat the other team. Not just win the game, but beat the other team. Which means you got to play for 60 minutes. You got to execute, do your job, have discipline, do it one play at a time for 60 minutes in the game. So grade Alabama for me against Arkansas. You know, Saban kind of implied, listen to the broadcast, that maybe they didn't have their best week of practice, which is kind of a red flag. I will not go below a C for a win. You still won the football game. But what grade would you give them? A, B, C, D, or F? It is the pinned comment on today's video. So if that ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and go get your votes in. Overreaction number two, this offensive line is in shambles. It just continues to have problems. A team that I was convinced going to have good offensive line play, built on the offensive line, has not stepped up. I do think Jaeden Roberts is your new right guard. I think he's been an upgrade over Darrian Dalcourt, etc. at the position. Would not be mad if maybe you now cross-train Dalcourt back at center. Maybe give him a shot with McLaughlin, not playing the way we think he could play. Roberts against Arkansas did not allow a sack, did not allow a hit, allowed just one hurry. His PFF run grade was 64.3. When I'm watching live, I judge offensive line play based on, am I noticing you playing bad? You know, if we're putting out, if your lineman's looking the wrong way after a play, probably means he got beat. Did not notice that very much with Roberts. The problem is that left tackle remains a pretty dire situation. I thought both Kaydn Proctor and Elijah Pritchett were pretty terrible in this football game. I thought Pritchett was even worse than Proctor. So given that Proctor is a true freshman, I think has been a little bit better, has more perceived upside, etc., you probably have to ride it out with him and take the lumps and the bruises and give him those valuable reps, even though you are playing a Tennessee team this upcoming week that is loaded at pass rusher. James Pierce, I don't know if you guys have watched him at all this year. Dude's going to be a future first-round pick pretty early. It's going to be a tough matchup for Proctor. Got to continue to ride things out with him. But back to your right guard situation. Pick one for me. Who do you want to roll with the rest of the season, at least until the foreseeable future? JR for Jaeden Roberts or DD for Darrian Dalcourt. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, the pros and the sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. It's a simple an easy way to play. You can make your picks and turn $10 into $250 in just a few taps. My NFL picks, since the college games are over this week, more than Trevor Lawrence passing yards, more than Kenneth Walker touchdowns, just a half, so 1, and more than Cooper Kupp receiving yards as well. Did the flex play. Won't get as much back if I get all 3, but I only got to get 2 to come out on top. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link will be in the comments and the description. But again, folks, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Overreaction number 3, this Bama team simply cannot start fast. It's another game and another slow start. I mean, they did nothing that entire first quarter until like their final play when they hit the Kobe Prentice bomb, which also like 5x'd his yards, I think, on the year or something like that. It was something ridiculous. Like, you have to start faster, though. This is not a team that's built to overcome 14-point deficits early on or even 7-point deficits to a certain extent. You've had one touchdown on opening drives this year. And the first drive really should be the easiest. That's your scripted plays. Those are the ones you've worked on the most. Those are the ones that you should be most comfortable in. I don't know what's going on between Reese and the offensive line and the ground game and the quarterback, but they have got to start faster. When you have a team that is built upon its defense, the best way to have success is to build an early lead. Tough to build an early lead if you're starting games slowly and poorly. Again, we will be live for this week's Alabama-Tennessee. I guess next week, Sunday. This week or on a Sunday or Monday? For the upcoming Alabama versus Tennessee football game. I am excited. Producer Chris is excited. We'll be live for that one, reacting, breaking it down, doing some fun games as well. We'll have a little pregame tailgate for you too. YouTube.com/@RollTideTV. Make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out. Overreaction number 4, this defense is still good. Yeah, they did give up 21 points. That's not great. It is still a good unit. Great unit would have allowed maybe 11, but hey, you had 4 sacks today, or yesterday. You had 7 TFLs. Could have been 5 sacks, but KJ Jefferson's a giant human being, and it's tough to bring him down to a certain extent. And you dominated on third down for the most part. Arkansas was 4 of 14 on third downs in this football game. That's normally a recipe for having success and finding ways to win football games. So I do think this defense is kind of trending in the correct direction, remains a key part, and they'll be up to the task, I think, against Tennessee, whose offense against A&M, I was closely watching that game because, that was an important one, has not looked that great. So what is your confidence level overall right now in the Alabama defense? Scale this for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. I cannot believe you're making me do a kicker, Bart, but it's fine, Producer Chris. Will Reichard, all things considered, is kind of the GOAT of SEC kickers. He became the SEC's all-time leading scorer in this one, and he has been Alabama's most consistent player, which I would say is a compliment to Will Reichard and maybe a damning indictment on this Alabama offense overall. But he's been really good so far this year. 100% on his extra points, 100% on field goals. Made everyone 5 of 5 inside of 40, 5 of 5 inside of 50, 1 of 1 at 50-plus yarders, and when your punter got hurt last week, you stepped up and had 4 punts for a 41.3 average. It's a great way to go about it right there. All right, before we go, as always, on Overreaction Sunday, some injury news and updates. For the most part, this stuff sounds pretty positive. C.J. Dupree seemed to pull a muscle. Saban mentioned after the game that one guy had a pulled muscle, one guy had bruised ribs. We'll get to that part in a minute here. Didn't specify, but there were 2 guys who were hurt, so kind of connect the dots there. He had his right thigh wrapped during the game, was also on crutches, so I would say maybe a pull is a bit of an understatement. Maybe it's more of a strain, which technically is a pull, but square, rectangle, etc. We'll see if he's able to go against Tennessee. Tresman Marshall, again, connected the dots there of one guy had bruised ribs. Well, he was the one who was banged up out there. Saban said neither guy was hurt bad, so I would lean towards Marshall being able to go this upcoming game against Tennessee. We'll wait and see on that front. Marshall played 28 of the snaps. Jihad Campbell and Deontay Lawson kind of filled in there. Lawson was back, and I thought was Not as good as normal, by the way, but that's future conversation there. Good news maybe here on Malachi Moore as well. Nick Saban said he's getting closer. I interpret that as, Saban said they were not going to play Moore, but that he did get the pregame warm-up in. I interpret that as Moore is probably going to be able to play against Tennessee, and that'll be a big deal in a critical SEC matchup this coming Saturday.